that we as Democratic women and Democratic men are fired up and ready to go. Am I right? There are so many new faces here today, and our poor membership person, Janice Marsh, is mortified that she ran out of membership cards. I think it's a great thing. The one good piece of news that I heard on Facebook this morning was that today is National Friends Day. So welcome, you have a lot of new friends right here. Okay. So I'll give you a couple of updates about what we've been doing and how you can get involved in being fired up and ready to go. This past month, Democratic women participated in the March on Washington. Yay! They participated in the March on Birmingham. And there were quite a few of us on Peace Corner in Huntsville. In the Interfaith Rally. Many of our members were at the Indivisible meeting. We're going to Emerge Alabama meetings. And we're going to Human Rights Campaign meetings and Alabama Advise meetings. And if you're not meeting now, you will be soon. But we're fired up and we're ready to go. Our membership task force had a great meeting about a week ago, and they are working to be able to accommodate the great number of members that we have now. Last year at this time, we were in that room for our luncheon, and we were worried about it looking empty. I'm not worried about that anymore. So the membership task force is working on a directory, which will be out next month. We're working on a separate section for the website so that you have access to the names and phone numbers of emails of other members so you can get in touch with each other. We have a lot of plans for things that are specific for you as members of Democratic Women. So I give a big thanks to Janice Marsh and all of the people that she's gotten to rally around and help her with membership. So thank you, Janice. In governance and administration, we've spent a lot of time working on our bylaws and restructuring our organization so that it's an organization of the 21st century and an organization that allows very democratic participation. There's some great women who have been working on that, people who've been involved in Democratic Women since the 70s, probably the 60s, and brand new people who have just joined. And it's been a great opportunity to learn about the history and to think through problems that happen with organizations. We're hoping to have a final draft of that very shortly. Ask you to come to the meeting. There's one on Tuesday night at 6 and help us finish up the bylaws. We have also joined the 21st century. Not only do we have a fabulous new website, but starting this week, you will be able to pay for your lunches and memberships online. Because we're fired up. Okay. And with the bylaws, I want to thank Corey Reichoff for all of her time and patience in keeping up with the drafts and the changes for that. Okay. Under the Programs Committee, Pam Mars has gotten a group of people around her to plan programs. That's not only the luncheon meetings, but it's also panel discussions. We had one last month that was very successful about how the Alabama legislature works. This month we're planning one on another one for Black History Month. We will have all of the elected Black female officials from Madison County, and it's quite a group of women. We're also continuing with learning opportunities. This month's program will be on Slack, which is the program and app that we use to communicate with each other internally. We have a lot of the JFK committee and the JFK Scholarship Committee has met. Our scholarship is out, and this is the application. It'll be available for you as you walk out. This is something that Democratic Women has done since 1963 in honor of John F. Kennedy. It provides a $1,000 scholarship for a graduating senior in Madison County Doesn't matter if it's public school, private school, or homeschool, but all of us know at least one high school senior. You know somebody who knows a high school senior. So we would really like to get more applications this year. The JFK Scholarship Dinner will be on May 4th. We're very honored to have a very special guest, who is Mimi Kennedy, who is the star of the sitcom Mom. She's the former chair of Progressive Democrats of America, and she's coming all the way from California just to be with us. And thank Pam Mars and the program committee for their fabulous work on that. We also have a political committee, and Amy Shadowin and Lynn are heading that up. Their first meeting, their first open meeting, will be on Wednesday at 6 o'clock at headquarters. I encourage all of you to be there. It's taken us some time to put together this meeting because we want to make sure that we are leveraging and collaborating and not duplicating the efforts of others. But there are so many efforts going on out there that it's really hard to keep track of who's doing what. So we're going to get started on that, but even if you are involved in other political activities, I urge you to come and join us and to act as a liaison and help us collaborate together so that we can win, because we're fired up and we're ready to go. And we are also starting a political action committee that will be focused on electing Democratic women from Madison County, because we're fired up and we're ready to go. Our last task force is communications. I'm sure you have seen a tremendous difference in how our communications are coming out and the order in which they're coming out. I want to thank Lisa Handback, who can't be here today, and Alana Morrison, who's right there, for working very, very hard on Facebook, on Twitter. I was informed the other day that we have an Instagram account. How many people here know Instagram? Okay, well, we are on Instagram, and we have over 60 followers. Because we're fired up and we're ready to go. So please keep checking out our website. All of the meetings are up on there. We send out a Sunday email to members, and that gives you a recap of what's coming up for the week and any important announcements. So if you want to base your calendar on that Sunday email, you'll be in all the right places at the right time. I'm going to turn this over now to Pam Mars to introduce our program for today.
Good afternoon. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce our speakers for today. Judge Lynn Sherrod was appointed Madison County District Judge in 1999 by Governor Don Siegelman. She was elected in 2000 as the first...
Good here, Pam.
Loud, now, can you hear me? She was re-elected in 2006. Judge Sherrod developed and presided over the Madison County Drug Courts. She initiated mediation in small claims court and the Judicial Volunteer Program. She also developed the Lend an Ear mentoring program in Madison County. Prior to serving as district judge, she was appointed municipal court judge by the Huntsville City Council in 1997, becoming the presiding judge of that court in 1998. She engaged in private practice of law and also served as assistant district attorney in Madison County from 1989 until her appointment to the bench. During her years with the DA, she served as division chief for child support from 1993 to 1997. Judge Sherrod received her Bachelor's of Art from Fisk University in Nashville, her Juris Doctorate from the University of Houston and the University of Alabama Law School. She serves on the Board of Trustees of Alabama A&M University, is a member of the Alabama Bar Association, Alabama Lawyers Association, which she was president in 1991 and 1992, the National Bar Association, chair-elect of Judicial Council, and the Huntsville-Madison County Bar Association. Judge Sherrod is also the recipient of many honors and received more than 100 awards, including the Southeastern Hall of Fame, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Martin Luther King Award from the Greater Huntsville Interdenominational Fellowship, and Professional Leadership Award from the Society of Professional Women. She retired from the state court in January of 2013, and she's currently of counsel with the Huntsville law firm of Conscience Cloud Cole, practicing civil litigation. Also, we have our newly elected Huntsville School Board member, Michelle Watkins. Michelle is a lifelong resident of Huntsville, Alabama. She graduated, taught, and was the last president of the PTSA, all at Johnson High School. She earned a Bachelor degree of Science of Business Administration, a Master's of Secondary Education, and an Education Specialist degree, all of them from Alabama A&M. Such deep roots. She's also a graduate of Leadership Huntsville Focus Class 27, a certified Oracle instructor, taught at J.F. Drake Technical School, member of the Junior League, United Way, City of Huntsville Community Development Citizens Advisory Council, Alabama A&M Youth Motivation Task Force. Currently, Michelle is Management and Program Analyst for the United States Army Garrison at Redstone Arsenal. And of course, she serves us as Huntsville City School District 1 Board Representatives. Please join me in welcoming Judge Lynn Sherrod and School Board Member Michelle Watkins.
Wants to eat and was turned away at the table because we were afraid we didn't have enough food. We do have enough food, so if you would like to eat, please let Barbara know up front. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Is this mic working?
Yes. Yes.
Now, Barbara and Katie, I can't take your word for it because you can't hear when I'm next to you. Somebody else tell me if it's working. It's not working. What if I were to hold it? Is this better? Good afternoon to each of you. I'm Judge Lynn Sherrod, and I'm extremely delighted to be with you. Actually, I feel like I have come home. I have been a member of this organization, and I'm not going to say how long. I cannot tell you how long, because then you would start to date me. But it is certainly my pleasure, and I look forward to having an opportunity to answer any questions that you may have at some time. This is the beginning of Black History Month. Today, February 1st, February 1st is also known as Freedom Day. The month of January, we celebrated not just human rights, but we celebrated and looked for and called attention to human trafficking. For those of you that do not know, Alabama is 4th in the nation in human trafficking. That wonderful corridor that many of you call Confunction Junction transport more than just lemons, limes, and cattle. To transport people. We concluded Human Trafficking Prevention Month with Freedom Day, which is February the 1st, which was yesterday. So there's been a lot going on, and I'm eager to talk with you about it. I was told by Pam, the one thing she wanted me to tell you about was my opportunities at running for election, which I've done several times, as most of you know. I ran for district judge. It is a countywide election, an at-large election, and I can sum up in 5 words exactly what the biggest dilemma was. Raising money, getting people out to vote. It rained on election day twice. Do you know how rain affects folks going to the poll? It was a tremendous burden. And also, I ran in Madison County. In Madison County, African Americans make up only 24% of the population. 2.5% is Asian. 2% is other. So you figure out who the majority is. In Madison County, it is my understanding that Democrats are now up to 34%. But I ran and was elected in spite of those odds. But it required an awful lot of doing things the way we used to do them. You get out there and you knock on doors. you shake some hands, you stand on street corners, you stand in front of polling places on election day, regardless of the temperature, and you get out there and you ask for votes. I want to challenge each of you. You know, we've got some important stuff coming up. We can't do anything about the last election. But to quote Reverend Al the other night, we lost the election, but we did not lose our minds. We know what we need to do. We know what's in front of us. We get to elect a governor in a very short period of time. We really need a governor. We need one that's going to help us move Alabama back into, well, I used to say the 21st century, but we've gone backwards. So I'm not quite sure where we're trying to get. But it was quite, and I know how difficult it is, but let me say to you, Democrats, we've got to have a candidate in every election. Yes. We must work for our candidates. And listen to me very carefully. We've got to help them raise money. There are few with independent means. But we, as a Democratic Party, must be prepared to get out there and to work hard. And that's my introduction.
Good afternoon. I consider it a complete honor to stand next to Judge Sherrod, who paved the way for many African American women and has been an inspiration. And to stand next to her and be a speaker, I'm sitting here floored right now. Running for office this time around was something very new to me, and I learned so many things, but one thing I learned that Judge Sherrod just said is, you gotta have money. And a lot of times people think when you need money that you want an astronomical amount, and that's not true. If every person in this room gave $20 to a campaign, can you imagine how many ads can be bought? How many due cards can be made for them to pass out? So every little bit counts. So whatever you do is, if someone's running and they're a Democrat and you believe in them, support them. Please support them. And don't just support them with your money, support them with your time. If you can't get out and knock on doors, make phone calls for them. Call your friends. Call people that you know need to get active and engaged, and get them involved in the process, because right now we're at an impasse in our nation. We have a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And the reason why we're at an impasse is because we're always behind the mark. They're up at night playing and we're at home at night resting. So you gotta come out of your comfort zone. And that was the biggest issue for me, was getting people out of their comfort zone when I was running. But I had this one faithful friend that's not here, she's usually here, Lynn Holmes. I don't care what time of the day or night, I would call Lynn and say, we need to go do this. She said, I'm coming to get you. And I said, I'll drive. She said, no, you have to talk when you get there. So when you get there, you have to run around and talk. I'm driving you there. So you got to have somebody that's in your corner, and in your corner 100%. So I would say to anybody in this room, when you look at me, you're looking at true grassroots. I got frustrated with the area politics. I got frustrated with taxpayers not being listened to. And I got frustrated with the fact that we didn't have a voice. That's why I ran. And oftentimes I had people ask me, do you really think you can win? And I was like, I'm running. I believe in myself if nobody else does, so you got to believe in yourself. But I would just say to everybody that's sitting in this room today, one of you sitting in this room could be our next president. All it takes is you getting out there, getting involved, addressing the issues, because that's what people want to hear about. They want to hear the issues. They want to hear what's going on. What do you plan on doing about it? And you speaking up about it, and you going to the meetings and telling them what's going on, that means a lot. But if you're just going shaking hands and smiling, they're not going to vote for you. You got to have a platform. And so I would just say that anybody in this room, if you ever consider running, do it. it's no reason why you shouldn't do it. Because if everybody feared running for office, we wouldn't have people in office today to represent us. Thank you so much.
We're now opening the floor for questions. Does anyone have a question?
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts or information about how the redistricting process is going to unfold in Alabama for the districts that we've been ordered to redo the lines, and whether the Democrats can do something to influence that so that we move more?
I will attempt to repeat that question, hopefully a little bit louder. She asked if we had any thoughts on the redistricting that's currently underway and what the outcomes will be and how it will affect Democrats. For those of you that are not aware, the Alabama Democratic Party, among others, filed a lawsuit following the last redistricting that occurred in the state. Each time there's a census, we have to redistrict, and supposedly the lines are drawn so that there will be some type of equality across the districts. The accusation and what has been said by the court is that Alabama engaged in packing. They would pack underrepresented groups into single-member districts so that only the way a black could win would be running in a district where there was a majority black district. One of the things that I think will happen is I think Madison County in North Alabama will get an additional senator. And yes, and I'm hoping it will be Anthony Daniels. I think statewide that it will certainly move to dilute some of those areas where we have had concentrations of people and give us more of an opportunity as Democrats. But let me say, the group that's going to redraw the lines is the group that drew the first set of lines, and that's the Alabama legislature. I heard someone say earlier in the conversations that was going on that you had a workshop on how the Alabama legislature run, and my thought was, that didn't take long. Because it seldom ever runs well, and as you know, the Alabama Republican Party has a super majority in the Alabama House and a majority in the Alabama Senate, and they also control the governor's mansion. And those are the folks that's going to be redrawing the line. So it's going to require that we be vigilant as we watch them redraw these lines. And do I think that the litigation is over? No, I do not. I think it will be up to the courts to once again right the wrongs that they will probably draft again.
Is that something you could take to the Supreme Court eventually?
Yes, it will go, and it will go through the federal system, and it moves on. But at this stage of the game, the Alabama plaintiffs, which is the Alabama Democratic Conference, has prevailed, and the legislature is going to start redrawing those lines. I think they may settle.
My question is for the judge. We moved away and came back after many years. One thing that we noticed voting here is the amendments, and the reason I thought of this question is because of what you just mentioned. Do you ever think that there's a way that the amendments can be summarized in non-legalese for people to understand and see the consequences? I'm just saying from our group too, because it made me think that we shouldn't vote for any of the amendments because most of them were created to, it looks like it's good, but then when you look at the consequences, you're like, oh, this is awful.
Let me see if I can restate her question. It involved the amendments that are on the ballot. And she said, do you think it will ever be in plain language so we can just understand what they say? Or also, I'm assuming she's alluding to, why are there so many? Well, there are so many because the state of Alabama operates under a constitution that was ratified in 1901. That constitution probably expressed what was going on in the state of Alabama in 1901. Many of the tenets of that constitution are no longer applicable. We have never had a constitutional convention. The legislature has never set out to ratify a new constitution. And although there have been small pockets of generally Democrats, generally women, that have pushed for a new constitution in the state of Alabama, it has never gripped the majority of the people that we could move forward with a new constitution. The constitution that we currently work under, in order to make any changes, they have to make amendments to it, which requires statewide vote. And that's why it takes so many amendments and why it's in such legal language. And often, let me say this to you, and nobody say I said this. I think many of them are crafted to confuse the voters. Yes, it is semantics, but it depends on how you state it as to what the outcome you want to get. So yes, it's there.
Should you vote no for all of them? 'Cause that's
You
what
should
we-
never vote no for all of them, because every now and then there's one that will come out and be really great. But that's not all.
The newspaper this year did a pretty good job of saying the amendments over again in English. And so things that sounded good, you found out they were bad, and things that sounded bad, you found out they were good. So
And the Alabama Democratic Conference published a voter's guide that identified each of the amendments. The Alabama State Democratic Party published a voter's guide that identified each of them and put them in a language where even I understood that if I didn't vote for it, that parks would not get any money, that instead they would divert that money to somewhere else.
There was a polling place during the local election in Madison, city of Madison. And they have translated all the different amendments in plainer language. I had a copy and I looked at it, but we didn't have it in Huntsville. So
I'm aware of that, and I'm aware of that because one of my current coworkers works very aggressively in the Hispanic community, and they actually translated all of the amendments into Spanish, but I only recognized it in Madison. I did not see that happening. And that is certainly something Democratic women that you may want to take up. You got a doctor, political action committee. Perhaps we need to work aggressively to make sure everybody can understand.
I don't speak Spanish. It was translated from English, from legal, lingo to a plainer English.
Yes,
So that's
yes.
what we need, English to English.
And you know, I think all legalese is plain English. And yes, that did occur, and it has been extremely helpful. And I use Spanish quite often, but we know that only 2% of Madison County speak Spanish. That even the Asian community, which is now 2.5% of the voting population in Madison County, exceeds the Hispanic community in Madison County.
Any questions? I have one. Michelle, I would like to know your thoughts on the election of the Huntsville City School Superintendent.
Well, we elected a new superintendent on Monday night, and Dr. Matt Aiken, who is from Piedmont, Alabama, will be coming on board probably about the 3rd or 4th of March. I would say that the election was trying at times because someone leaked to the news media an hour before it was time for us to vote some derogatory information about one of the leading candidates. And it was leaked from within, and that was disappointing because we received information. Excuse me? I'll just rather say that
As her lawyer of the hour, don't say.
I wasn't going to say, that's why I said I'd rather say that it was unprofessional, it was unethical, and that we are in a position where we are supposed to be the role models. We received information on every candidate. But was it correct information? Was it valid information? We didn't have any way of verifying information. So, you know, it wasn't taken into consideration, just like this other candidate. It wasn't taken into consideration. So it was just disheartening that the media reported that on just one candidate.
However, the person that did that, maybe we don't want them on the school board next time. Right. And if we don't know, how can we get rid of them? I'm not saying you should tell us right now, but I'm thinking maybe that needs to be leaked to the press as well.
I want to ask this question. I think I know the answer, I believe, but I need to hear it from you, Michelle. Does the board, the superintendent work for the board, right, of the city of Huntsville? Yes. Will that occur this time?
Well, let's just say as long as I'm representing my district, he'll work for my district.
Okay.
My question is, will we get books back in the library, or will it be 100% computer?
Okay, Dr. Aiken is a technology guru, and they actually have laptops and iPads in his school system, but we have books available to anyone who wants one for their child. What you need to do is you need to go to the librarian, and the librarian would check out the books with you. If you're told that they do not have the books, contact me and I'll make sure you get the books.
Great.
But books are available.
Would you express to everyone the type of relationship that he built with his the workers in the schools and the teachers?
You talking about Dr. Aiken?
Yes, Dr. Aiken.
When we took Dr. Aiken out on a tour,
We didn't hear that.
she asked what type of relationship did Dr. Aiken have with the teachers and personnel. He was very personable. He talked to the teachers. He talked to the administrators. He asked a lot of questions. And one of the things that he told us when we were touring, as well as in his interview, was that he would be the type of superintendent that would be hands-on. He wants to go out to the schools and visit at least 2 days a week. I think that's going to be kind of hard for him because he had 3 schools in Piedmont. We don't have that here. So he's got a lot of employees, 2,500 employees. But he wants to reach out, and that's a good thing, that he wants to be engaged and he wants to understand what's going on. And he wants to form relationships. And that is very important for us to remember. In order for you to have communication, you got to establish some type of relationship. So I'm looking forward to working with him. I think he's going to do a good job.
This sounds really basic, but where is Piedmont?
Piedmont is located close to Jacksonville, down by Jacksonville College. It's not far away from it, Anniston.
Okay.
So where's Jacksonville? I'm not from outside.
East out.
Yes,
Oh, east out.
2 hours away.
Yes, ma'am. Your question.
School board rep, Ms. Watkins, what is our budget, Huntsville City Schools budget, compared to Mr. Aiken's budget, where he's coming from?
Well, she wants to know what's his budget compared to Huntsville City Schools budget. His budget is quite smaller because you're allotted your money according to your size of your school district. And I think his budget was like $14-15 million. Don't quote me on that. But Huntsville City Schools, we have a $53 million budget. So it's a big difference, but the thing is, he's good. He's managed his district well, hadn't had any financial difficulty, and he worked closely with the finance department. So I'm pretty sure coming in, he just needs finance department to put him up to speed. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you.
Oh, well, was he asked about the desegregation orders and how he planned to deal with that?
Well, he's dealt with a lot of factors in the desegregation order, as many of the other candidates did. So we anticipate him coming in, getting up to speed with our attorney. The attorney will brief him on the consent order, you know, the implications of the consent order and the requirements. So I anticipate he'll do well on that, as well as any other superintendent, because you have a legal team that's going to advise you at all times.
Is he for STEM?
He is.
Is he what?
Yes, he is.
Is he for STEM?
He actually has done quite a few publications in some of the educational journals about STEM and about technology, so he is a big STEM supporter. But I'm looking for a STEAM supporter, because arts is important as well.
Judge Sherrod, I have a question for you. I know that when you implemented the drug courts, that they were highly successful. The juvenile courts were highly successful. The mediation was highly successful. Are those programs still being carried on in the way that you implemented? And can we hope for anything in the future like this?
I'm going to repeat her question. She wanted to know if the drug court, if mediation in small claims court, if the juvenile court system, if many of the reforms in the court system that I made are continuing. And the answer to that is yes. Most of them are continuing. Are they continuing at the same pace? No, not necessarily. I am an advocate that substance abuse need to be out of the court system, need to be in the public health arena, that it should be a public health crisis and not a crisis of the court system. In fact, I will be traveling on the 12th of this month to Dallas to speak on that subject on the 13th and 14th, because I'm firmly convinced that we've got to move it out of locking up every kid that you find with a joint.
That's right. That's right.
Every mother, we take away her children. We're not doing ourselves favor. In fact, we need to implement more treatment options. Now, yes, I recognize that there is a disparity in the level of treatment available for communities of color, for poor people, and if you think it's a problem now, let's see what happens if they prevail in getting rid of the Affordable Care Act. But yes, there's a disparity, but there is some treatment. I think it's wrong that you've got to commit a crime and go to court to get drug treatment. It needs to be available to everyone on a consistent and equal basis. Mediation in small claim court continues. Just earlier, well, last month, in the month of January, I was in court in Madison County, and mediation was there. It was active, it was strong, and it was continuing to prevail. The juvenile court system is a little harder to put your finger on because it's not information that's out there for public dissemination. But our children are continuing to get in trouble. Many of you know I got into real trouble and had to go down and speak to the school board because I'm the one that put the op-ed in the newspaper to see it. Every time a child calls the teacher a bitch, don't send them to court. Because you create a record for that child. The school has to be able to deal with some discipline. If the school can't deal with discipline, you got to call the parents. And of course, now they tell me then you got to discipline the parents. So it becomes a vicious cycle. But yes, I want us to be very much aware that each time you send a child to the court system, you're creating a record for that child. And although it is a closed record, it will follow that child forever. Not only that, it's like anything else. There's a practice effect. We don't want them to practice going to court.
Right. Right.
We want to hear from the nasty woman that votes. Teacher, please stand up and show it to absolutely everyone.
Judge, I wanted to know if you were aware that they've re-pre-filed a bill in the legislature that will allow Christian, or let's call it religious agencies that handle adoptions and foster care placement to be able to reject parents, potential parents whose lifestyles they do not agree with in their religion, like for adopting or for foster care. Are you aware of that, and you see of any impact on that?
Let me give you an example of what I went through in the court system. One of the things I had to do as a judge was to determine where children would live. I removed a young child from its mother's permanent custody because the mother was attempting to teach the child to swim in the bathtub and it almost drowned, because that same mother had dropped a prior child on his head and he had permanent brain damage, and because that same mother had a third offense against the child that was so horrendous I don't want to even talk about it. But I sent it down. It eventually made its way to the Alabama Supreme Court. The Alabama Supreme Court upheld my decision to remove that child from that home, but on a very small amount of information that was in a 650-page transcript that said the mother was a lesbian. And your former Supreme Court Chief Justice said that was inherently evil and it was okay to remove the child. I mean, totally overlooked the fact that these children were in harm's way. I mean, just totally overlooked it. I believe in the state of Alabama that we're going to have to be more aggressive in looking for judges. Currently on the Alabama Supreme Court and all of the Court of Appeals in the state of Alabama, there are no people of color. That's black, brown, yellow, and no people of color, period, on any of them. So they're not sensitive to many of the issues, and we need to, as people, this is our state too.
Exactly.
We need to develop candidates, we need to support candidates, we need to get out there and elect candidates. I was aware of the bill that is moving forward, and I'm real hopeful. And I say hopeful, and I shudder when I say it, that in its current form, it will not be what we get in the long run.
Unfortunately, I think the current national administration also is trying to pass a bill like that. That's true.
You don't even want me to get started on that.
One more thing. One of the things that I would like to recommend for us across the state is to have anybody who is a lawyer, a judge, or a formal judge that is a Democrat to get together and join together to find potential candidates for every single judicial office in the state.
Madam President.
Following up with that question, if you were running again today, both of you, what would you most want to see from Democratic women or organizations like us that would encourage you to run and would support you in making that decision to take that lead?
If I were running today, the thing I would most want to see from all Democrats is unity. Yes. We need to be the Democratic Party. Now, you can have many clubs, you can have many wings, you can have everything else, but we've got to come together as the Democratic Party, and we've got to put forth the Democratic platform, the Democratic agenda. It can no longer be us and them, or we and they, or, the whatever is the, it can't be the women against the Rocket City. It can't be the Madison County Executive Committee against anybody else. We must come together. They have effectively divided and conquered the Democratic Party. But we can correct that. We can come together and we can make a difference in every election.
Sherrod, you mentioned that human trafficking, Alabama is #4. What percentage does Huntsville play in that?
Huntsville has not been identified as being one of the key players in the human trafficking arena. All of the information I hear comes about Birmingham and Mobile. Mobile because it's a port of entry, and they're smuggled out of the country. Birmingham, you know, we've got that beautiful I-65 that comes from somewhere way up north and goes somewhere way down south. And the people coming over from Texas come through Birmingham going toward Atlanta and that end of the world. But Huntsville has not been identified. And let me say, human trafficking takes many forms. And it's not just your daughters you have to be worried about anymore, folks. You got to look after your sons too.
Oh. Okay, we have a question in the back.
I have a question going back to the unity, because I personally feel as if a revolution is coming. That is, how do we bring unity together? Because there's so many sprouts, and we need a tree branch, and we got so many sprouts coming out, and I personally want to be part of it, but who do I go to? Where do I go to? I am so proud that Mrs. Watkins, we have 2 new board members, and I got involved in that at the last minute because I saw what was happening to me as a 30-year teacher that is now retired. I'm angry. We're angry. It's emotional to us. It's the good old boys. How do we come together? That's what I want to know. Because I'm ready to do that. I just don't know how. And I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone, but I'm speaking for me and the country that I love.
I feel your pain. Since November the 8th of last year, I have gone from being angry to being sad to being very emotional to being depressed, and I've been angry at different groups. I was angry at teachers for a while. I said, how dare teachers go out there and vote for this crazy person? How dare teachers go out? Teachers helped elect Robert Bentley. You'll remember Robert Bentley. He's our governor. He's Mr. Family Values. He's Mr. Family Values that want to get rid of teacher tenure. So I have gone through this, and I have come to the resolution and the resolve that we're going to have to do it. 1, just as we're doing today by dialoguing. 2, you know, the biggest fear is the unknown. We need to know what others are doing, and we need to bring them together. There cannot be a black Democratic Party, a white Democratic Party, a women's Democratic Party. We are the Democratic Party. And that's where we're going to have to start.
I would like to say that I think you're making the best step that you're making right now. You're here. You're not at home, and you're a part of this organization. But one thing you need to do with this organization, other than pay your dues and come to the lunch, you need to align yourself with one of the subcommittees. And you need to work with that subcommittee. And make sure when you're working with that subcommittee, you know, go out and recruit people that share your ideals and your values and bring them on board, because we're stronger together. And I know that's, you know, a campaign slogan, but it's true. You know, when they divide us, they conquer us. So we got to come together, and one of the things we need to do is you have to get involved, and you got to get off your couch, and you got to come out your house.
One of the other things that I've noticed is there's lots of other things going on, not just Democratic, okay? There's SOAR, there's SURGE, there's Indivisible. Are we reaching out to all these other groups? Because there's hundreds of thousands of other women out there. When I went up to Washington, I was amazed. My plane was full of women going to the march in D.C. from Alabama. I was shocked. I was afraid to tell anybody where I was going. Seriously. And it worked out great. So, I mean, we need to network with all these other groups too.
Let me address that question for just a minute. And let me say, when I showed up to get on the bus for Washington Friday night, and I'm looking at the parking lot, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know everybody. And that was an awesome feeling for me, because so often I go to Democratic things or liberal things, and it's all the same people in a different place at a different time. I'm of the belief that there are a huge number of groups starting, and I can't keep track of them. Though I tried to put it up on a whiteboard, and that got full, and it was very, very colorful, but it looked like modern art. I think all of that will start to settle down as each of those groups develops an identity, but I can also say that there's a huge amount of cross-fertilization, and I'm going to call it cross-fertilization and not incestuous behavior, but Amy Shadowin is in charge of SOAR, which is Pantsuit Nation. She's also an officer of Democratic Women. We have Susan Griffin and Cindy Allen here, who are both with Indivisible. We're with Democratic Women, the Democratic Party. MCDW is here. I heard this morning about Alabama March huddle groups. I'm going to a meeting this weekend for Emerge, which is a national program to elect Democratic women. And they're bringing some training and supports here. So there's a huge amount going on. I think we as Democratic women are working very, very hard to reach out and try to make connections with everybody. I think every group has a different role to play, and we just need to figure out how we all fit in and fit together.
I just feel like there's power in numbers, and the more we network with each other, the more force we'll have.
And sometimes it's going to be an issue of just sorting through the Facebook event pages.
Right.
And I think we need to start working as fast as we can, because we've got two years, and hopefully we can get some of them changed.
Absolutely.
You know, you can't take a whole year to get this organized. You just gotta get it.
This should be the time for Democrats. Look at what we've experienced over the course of the last year. We sent the Speaker of the House to jail. We're talking about impeaching the governor. You know, you remember him, the guy with the iPad that didn't know how to use it. You know, this should be the time for Democrats. Are we going to capitalize on this opportunity?
I have a question. I've noticed all the diverse women and men around here, but it seems like that there's a obvious lack of younger folks, and it doesn't seem like we're doing a good job of appealing to millennial crowd, or you know, the 18 to 40-year-olds, you know, and like I'm right there, like in the middle there, but all these young people, they think, well, I don't have any money, you know, I can't give any money, but those people are the game changers as far as social media, and they're like, I mean, and so we've got to do a better job of getting them included, and also, you know, educating our other members on how to communicate with them online. That's right. And things like that, so we can support each other on a larger basis.
And it's hard for those people to get here at this
time. Let me address that too. Okay. When I first came to my first Democratic Women's meeting, Luncheon, and I was going through my pre-50 crisis, and people said to me, oh my gosh, it's so good to have young people involved. And I'm like, really? We have recognized that. We are working to not to decrease the importance of a lunch, but the lunch is one thing that we're doing. We're doing the panel discussion, we're doing the learning opportunities, we're trying to create things at times that work for working people and mothers, and kind of spread it out so that you can take advantage of what's out there and it's not limited to one thing. Let me also say that I have engaged in a number of discussions over the last probably year, but certainly in the last couple of months, about the history of Democratic Women, the name, the country club, lunches, paying, non-eating, and with almost every conceivable issue that you can come up with. And you're an attorney, aren't you, Rebecca? Yes. Okay. every conceivable issue. And I want that. I want to hear what you're thinking, and we've had discussions among the leadership about that, because we really do want to address your needs, because this whole group is critical. Okay.
I've been trying to say something. This goes back to something a little while ago about we are all frustrated, mystified. A lot of people are. Why a lot of teachers voted against their self-interest. Why a lot of women, and I think probably particularly white women, would vote against their self-interest. They have been raised in fundamentalist churches where they have had the superiority of women, the subjection of women, and they're told if they don't go or believe it, go along with it, and the spouse they're going to hell. They go all that road, and there are plenty of churches like that in Madison and all over the country. Well, it's Appalachian. But we need to understand where our poor sisters are coming from.
And Rebecca, to address your question even further, mark on your calendars the third Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We're having meetings for learning opportunities. Our first one is Slack. Our next one is Twitter. Our next one is Facebook. We're having one on how to run for office. So we are going to try to meet the needs of every single Democratic person in Madison County. It is April. It is the third Tuesday in April, and it will be taught by Corey Wyckoff.
And where will it be?
Democratic headquarters on Memorial Parkway, North Memorial Parkway, next to Taco Bell.
Don't forget that AAUW is also offering a ready-to-run program, I believe at the end of March, and I don't remember exactly where it is. But I'm sure that Democratic women will put it on their Facebook page and their website.
I'd like to know what you think about which is more dangerous, Trump's war on public education, or what was the other? It's public education. Oh, there's so much. Or public schools. Is war on public schools or public?
The question, and I'm attempting to repeat the question, is which do we think is more dangerous, Trump's war on public education
And the free press, or the free press,
or his war on the free press? And if that's an easy one for me to answer, I just think Trump is dangerous. If there's a silver lining, if we think the first 2 weeks have been bad, what can we expect over the next 2 years?
I just got a reminder, we need to close this up, because I know Michelle has meetings, and I'm sure you do too. Because you're not stopping any work, right? Let's give a big round of applause for our speakers today. I have a couple of quick things. One is, if you have a blue bucket on your table, we need to buy some more blue buckets. Those are for donations to the JFK Scholarship Fund. So if you have change floating on the bottom of your purse, or $1 or $2, please contribute to that. It stops us from having annoying fundraisers for scholarship funds. Two, one of the benefits of being a member is you get entered into a monthly drawing for a really, really cool pod. So I would like to ask Michelle to pick a name. Marion Latte.
Oh!
Hey. This is a personal one, and I actually made it. She knits, she politics, you know?
I didn't know she knows.
I want to remind you about the 2 meetings coming up this week. The bylaws is on Tuesday at 6 o'clock, and the political committee is on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. If you can't make that, she's got her own pink pussy hat.
Thank you.
If you can't make that, please let us know so we can keep you in the loop with communication. Joanne.
Just if you're interested in the United Alabama Democratic Party, they are having a meeting in Montgomery this Saturday at the Embassy Suites at 11 o'clock. Come and witness.
What is it? What is it? I couldn't hear what you said.
SDEC, the Technical Committee meeting, is this Saturday in Montgomery at 11 o'clock at the Embassy Suites. And you can see how our Democratic Party does function.
Thank you for the opportunity to make an announcement. I want to show you some pictures. I'm showing you these pictures because these are the children that I'm talking to you about. I'd like to invite you to a benefit breakfast. This benefit breakfast is being sponsored by New Beginnings Christian Church. Reverend Jennifer and Reverend Earl are the pastors there, and I know you think that's Maggie's daughter, but I'm taking her. I'm going to take her forever. It's Friday, February 10th. Tickets are $40. You can get together and reserve a table for 8 for $500. All of the proceeds will be used for this school for 3 and 4 year olds. 3 and 4 year olds. Ask any of the educators when education should start. It starts at birth, but 3 and 4 year olds, I think none of them would dispute that we need to do more to educate that group. We do not have mandatory school for 3 and 4 year olds in the state of Alabama. The school was taken over by New Beginnings Christian Church on January 1. They need community support to sustain the school. Please see me if you need any further information regarding this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.